Good afternoon. This is a little loud. I'm going to call this meeting to order. This is the October Sports Pavilion Committee meeting, just in case you thought you were coming somewhere else. I don't know. But welcome. Thank you for coming. So for anybody that may have not already done so, could you please silence your phones? So. And with that, with all of our members here, we have a quorum. And we'll move into 2.01, the minutes from the September meeting. If there are no objections or changes, we'll enter them as written. Okay, Karen? So noted. Move into staff reports, 3.01, with bowling manager Barry Hardesty.
Okay, let me preface this with September of 2023 versus September 2022, that we were closed for 11 days this year versus we were open last year. So you're going to hear about a lot of negative numbers. Hopefully our plan is to try to make it a tail end where we're going to try to add weeks to the leagues that missed weeks. So we'll see how that goes in April. So if we're up in April, we're just up because I'm good. So here we go. League bowling, we were down 10,925. Open bowling, we were down 7,876. Miscellaneous, we were up 7,309, mostly due to locker income this year. Total bowling revenue, we were down 11,492. Food and beverage, we were down 5,296. Miscellaneous bowling revenue, we were down $1,219. Grand total revenue, we were down $18,007. Lineage, we were down 5,273 games. And the Lizard Acres Pub, we were down $3,594. That's all I have. Any questions to that?
Okay. Does the committee have any questions for Barry? No? Or, okay.
No, we didn't plan, we had no idea this was going to happen when we did the budget, so it was not included in the budget.
So we'll present that next month, Mr. Kleckner. We'll present that next month. We did plan on the bowling alley being closed for the month of August, but because some of the setbacks we had with the construction and some of the additional work we had to have done, we weren't anticipating that first 11 days being closed. We actually anticipated being open. But as Barry said, he is good. Hope is not a strategy, and we will make that up this year.
Thank you, Cliff, for jumping in there. For anybody that doesn't know, that's Cliff Swan, our CFO. Do we have any questions from the audience? No. So with that, we're going to roll into 302, July and August reports. Are you just going to do August, Cliff, or?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
So attached to the minutes and to the board docs is July financials and August as well, but we'll present August year to date. Thank you, Ms. Vines.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so for August year to date, compared to budget, again, we planned for the bowling alley to be closed in August, so we came in pretty much right at budget, actually 5,000 favorable on revenue. You could have saved that for my walk-up music. Okay, so year to date, we're right on budget through August on the revenue, and then on expense, favorable 33,000. Most of the savings in wages and benefits, which due to the closure, people aren't working. We did budget for it, but it came in more favorable than we thought it would in terms of wages and benefits. So total for the year to date August is 38,000 favorable, with 5,000 favorable on revenue and 33 favorable on expense. Looking at prior year to date, obviously we were open in August last year, so our revenue is going to be higher, and it is by 19,000. And on the expense side, we did have wage increases and expense increases. So we're flat of 2,000 favorable on expense, but as I said in the budget, we're 33 favorable. For a total of 17,000 unfavorable to prior year. Again, Barry will do his darndest to make that up. And looking at the specific revenue items in terms of the bowling revenue off a prior year in these categories due to those closures. And through, Barry talked about September earlier, but through August, 7,346 less in bowling lineage. We did instate that fee increase, so the per line is up 8%, which was what was budgeted. And just to give some context to that, we have roughly 300,000 bowling lines in a year. Does that sound about right, Barry?
Right.
Yeah, so 7,300, we got a good opportunity to make that up. And then on the expense side, no notables on the expense side. That concludes my presentation, Ms. Bynes.
Thank you, Cliff. Do we have any questions for our CFO from the committee? No? No? Okay. Any questions from the audience? Okay. So, Cliff, I know that we're going to touch base on this. We'll see the fallout from the shutdown, the 11 days in August. But
Correct.
Just briefly, I think part of what we're going to be looking at, and we can give them kind of a little bit of insight in that, is and Barry, you probably want to jump in here, is the issues we ran into with the lanes, I think, with the installation. Is that where we ran into trouble with that?
Yeah, that's,
installation?
we had to cut another surface out.
Mhm.
So it extended their jobs, which that we had 3 weeks. We extended that for that reason, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we only planned on a 3-week shutdown on a normal installation, but with our luck, it wasn't normal.
Right.
And we did use that time to take the opportunity to do a flooring project that was set for next year.
Right.
Because it made better sense to do it then, so we were able to fill that time also, which will offset some time we would have had to close next year. So
Right. So there was some positives that
yeah,
came out
so
of
we
there.
made
then,
the best use of the time.
Right. And then also I think what we'll see at the next meeting too, when they present September, just so everybody has a heads up, where they were actually able to resell some of the equipment.
Yes.
And that will come out at the next meeting as well. So a lot of positives that come out of there, even though we had that extended 11 days into September shutdown. So perfect. Thanks, Cliff. Appreciate it. So with that, we'll move into 401 under new business, Lizard Acres discussion. And I think that's going to be Carl Wilhelm, if I'm not mistaken. Carl, is that you?
Yes,
That's
Director
gonna
Bynes,
present?
thank you.
Thank you.
Right. Greg, would you mind opening the first slide? Would you show me the second slide? And the third slide? All right, let's go to the middle slide, please. Committee, this is where we stand today. Just to give you a little update on the Lizard Acres Pub renovation project that we're talking about today. We currently have Barry, Greg Moran, two other staff members, myself and Joe Hoyer, on a design team. We have met twice. We have also placed our opening discussion comments, information that we've brought together to our first two meetings, primarily discussions on equipment, confirming size of the room, spatial layout, and we have handed it to an architect to give us some feedback. That is very important on giving me an understanding on how to proceed. Did I have any roadblocks, occupancy issues, specific needs that the architect believes that engineering or county will say to us as we move forward and down the road on this? And then ultimately, I have to have some good information for costing. So to date, we've discussed some decor. We've moved the bar to become just slightly bigger than maybe an original concept that you've seen. Through some advisement, architectural, and the committee and the design team, we have moved the band location to closer to the lanes, and then have the sound focus towards the back of the pub or the large projector side of the room. In our second meeting, we had the dart players come. So the representative, his name is Lauren Johnson, and he gave a compelling reason as to have us as a group consider having a fourth dartboard. I'd like to talk about that a little bit today. And then I'm here to answer any of your questions moving forward. So, Greg, could you go to slide 2 or 3? I'm sorry. This is just a little blow up of equipment conversations that we had. So the things that we know after talking with architectural, we have to have a 3-basin sink. The best plumbing is directly on the outside wall of the building, so what we call back of bar. That plumbing basically sits where you see a square box and 4 little circles, which represents a 4-tap system in the central portion of that back wall. So a 3-basin sink, a sanitizing machine, under-counter sanitizing machine, approximately a 6-foot wide 4-tap kegerator, and then the white space is remaining workstation, other options, stainless steel table, whatever we get to kind of a conclusion of what the rest of that space can provide for us for best working conditions. You'll notice that on the actual bar, there's 2 blue zones. Based on everyone's discussion, having 2 point of sale, most likely having all the electronic equipment up at the point of sale, and you'll see the thickened black line between the blue and the white bar top. Basically, that represents a handrail, so that the patrons coming up to get served aren't interrupting so much the patrons that are sitting at the first bench opportunity. The bar is relatively, at this point in conversation, about 24 inches wide, with either a pipe or solid boxed footrest at the bottom so that it's comfortable for everybody, 42 inches high. And then on the bar side, you'll see pretty much balanced out, starting from the middle, an additional 2-foot wide 2-tap craft beer zone. Then on each side of that, 2 3-foot glass chillers. And then on each side of that, 8 to 6 foot beer coolers for all the bottled wine, beer, different, items being sold out of the bar. And then really the only space left in this footage is on the far left side, some storage underneath the bar where that L turns towards the secondary point of sale area. So all of this so far adds up. Joe and I spent quite a few hours in the bar a few weeks back and took a real conservative approach. Instead of having the architect come out and take all these measurements and stuff like that, at this point, Joe and I wanted to make sure that, we were pretty dialed in. And we spent a couple hours literally taking measurements of all the items that we had on our equipment list that are needed for this bar, how it would lay out, our existing tables. Greg, can you go to slide number 1 now? Thank you. I'm sorry, the very first slide. There you go. And after being able to confirm those, then the architect would receive that information from us, and he went against the Recreation Centers of Sun City West's architectural plans for the existing Sports Pavilion. And so happy to say Greg and I did a pretty good job on our math, lining up all of our measurements. And this tells the story of the first thing that the architectural team is going to say to us. So spatial layout for the tables is good. Our occupancy is really good. It still stays within the, I think if you do the math there, there's 170-ish chairs between the benches in the top and bottom corner, the tables in front of that, a few stools, 22-ish benches, stools around the bar, and all the rest 4x6 tables and 4x4 tables. Now you'll see at the top where the 4 dartboards are represented. I did this for discussion purposes. We're a little tight. We're a little bit encroaching on the ADA, not the ADA, but the emergency exit egress of the emergency door today. So we got to kick the dartboard over just a little bit just to get into compliance today. But if you line those 3 boards up, we're just up to the edge of the big projector screen. The club, it's not a club, but the group of dart players asked if they could have a 4th board so that they could maintain their level of play that they normally have on the evenings that they arrive, and then still have an extra board in case the community in general wanted to play during their high level of play. Just a kind of a fairness thing. They do ask that we pay for it, so an additional $3,500 for a board. The dart players also asked for a monitor to be placed over each dart board so that the folks in the bar could see the scoring action happening. Do the dart boards already come with a small monitor down below? Yes, but it's really for the players. So again, these ideas that the dart group brought to our attention through Lauren Johnson, they were reasonable, but it does show that we would be having to make a decision about the big projector and the screen. So if we want to leave it status quo in our moving forward in this planning and leave it at 3 boards, that's what I would like some information from you as the committee, because that's what we'll be sharing with the dart players. They're not a club. They are a group of, genuine dart players. They want to grow. I think some of the comments from Barry and the Sports Pavilion team more directly are, we're good with 3. Honestly, that's the point of view. So these are the considerations that we have to make. Moving on to my next thing that we need to talk about is just north or just on the right-hand side of those dartboards, you're going to see a hallway. So this project will trigger what we call fire corridor. Why it's not there today, we've had no permits pulled on the project on that premises for any reasons to trigger anything, but the bar will. And I will have to pull a permit on this project. So that has been confirmed as well. I can't do it within the realm of just doing a remodel. There's just too many components between the electrical, the plumbing, the health and safety, the things that Barry has to comply to open up and maintain that environment. And that is going to trigger a hallway that needs to be built in the locker room, fire rated, so that folks, if there was ever an emergency, they're exiting out the back doors to the pool, but there's no chance of them going back into the burning or emergency situation in the locker rooms. So that is why it has to be a corridor, fire rated. I'm not saying that it's a disturbance that we can't overcome. I do think it affects a few lockers. And again, that's another subject for consideration to make sure that we're moving forward in this project. So, if this committee said that, no, we don't want to touch the locker rooms, then I'm telling you that the bar remodel's a no-go. So, these are the things that I don't really have a lot of control over. And wanted to make sure I pointed out to you today. Other than that, very positive. As we get down the road, we will show you a little bit more of the design side of things, colorization, maybe selection of decor pieces to go on the face of the bar, and just keep you aware. But I'm ready to take this to a next level of architecture, which is our first level of actually paying them. So I want to get your input today.
Super. Thank you, Carl.
You're welcome.
Excellent. So I have a couple of questions, but I think I'm going to defer to my committee because I imagine my questions are probably some of the same ones they're going to have. So
Okay.
I'll let them go first and
Great.
probably answer some of these questions. So committee members, questions for Carl?
Carl, with all the permits that we need and everything, we aren't going to run into a problem with the ladies' restrooms like we talked about before?
No, that is the purpose that I have to go to next steps, and right now, we don't believe so. Ultimately, the kind of the plan of development that I have to do one step before I go to permitting is have that sit down with county and the architect, and they'll tell us. Right now, the architect sees it as no. So that's the positive. That's why I'm encouraged to move forward, because we're not changing any square footage, and the occupancy is virtually staying the same. So if I represented this room in any other way, in any other table discussion, like less tables for more dance floor, it's problematic, because then the potential is I could have twice as many or a quarter as 25% more folks in there. That's what would trigger those kind of conversations. But right now, as it's represented, I believe we're good. You're welcome.
Thank you. Anybody else have questions for Carl regarding this?
Are the tables, like, they're there, they can't be moved, I'm assuming?
So there's a bit of reasonableness in that too. Us as the rec centers and Barry and myself as management of that space, no, they shouldn't be moved, because this layout is based on ADA compliance. We have some really good furniture. We have some furniture that needs to be replaced, so we're looking at that as a positive, where it might not be, in the overall budget so far that we are representing. That if we maintain a lot of those tables and get rid of really the big mismatch stuff, and maybe only have to invest in the 4x6 little higher top tables, our feelings there is that we have the right furniture, but it's mobile. So it's going to come down to the discipline of the night staff supervising, managing the people using the room, and being, probably a little bit more forthright than before and saying, don't move the tables. That's going to be the reality of it. We've also heard that it was probably in our best advisement to lighten up on the entertainment a little bit, maybe not quite such the big entertainment that currently is being hired, and have it a little bit smaller entertainment, so we're not quite drawing such a large crowd. If we're drawing crowds that we can't handle, what good is that doing for us other than causing problems, So that's going to be an operational decision ultimately, but that's the reality. So I'm going to say that we're not going to have permanently set in place furniture, but there's going to be a bit of management behind that where you're not allowed to move it.
Sorry, the other question I had was, do we have somebody that monitors how many people can be in there?
Well, it's our managerial duties to do that. So whoever Barry has on night shift for managing that area, I'm sure that they're keeping a watchful eye.
Okay.
You agree?
We do make a count every, Friday night's the only night we have a problem, but we do a head count every Friday, so.
And Bob, currently that max is larger than the room could already afford. So it's almost hard to put too many people in there. There's just not enough space for what we can actually put occupancy in there legally. That doesn't make it safe though. You know what I'm saying?
I think it's 247, isn't it, the capacity?
I don't have that to quote right now.
There's no way.
Correct.
I guess I have a couple of comments. Number one, I think the work you've done is excellent.
Thank you, sir.
And, but my only concern with that is, you've talked to the dart group. Has anybody talked to the bowler group? And, or the trivia group, or the shuffleboard group, or the Wii Bowling group, or anybody else who may be using that for different events? What are we setting it up for? If it's just going to be that layout, does that work for everybody?
I can't say that we have asked anybody those questions, but it is laid out with the premise that it's the same as Wii Bowling is today. So the chairs and tables are working for club rooms today, so I'm not changing that, other than there might be a couple less organized differently. So I don't see any room functions that affect any of those groups.
I'm coming at it from the bowling perspective more than the other groups. And the bowling area, and I think Gary will bear me out on this one because he's a former bowling alley manager. When you have a bowling alley, generally speaking, your bar is your most profitable part of the bowling alley if it's conducive to the bowlers and they like it and they want to use it. So I think we should, I'm not saying this is bad for the bowlers, and I don't know what kind of a time frame you're up against with the architects, but I can tell you we need to make this such that the bowlers want to go into that bar after bowling and have a few beers, instead of what's happening right now. What's happening right now is you've got the small bar in the corner, and when the bowlers come in, there are a dozen or so people, let's just say 10, that are permanent fixtures in there. They're not bowlers, they're just people, I don't even know if they're from our community, but they're there. And they always take up the bar. When bowlers come into a bar, they like to sit at the bar, or they like to sit in an area where they can all sit there and talk about their game and what happened and so on and so forth. So what's happening today is the bowlers are going up to the regular counter where where you pay for your bowling, whatever they call them, and buying their beer there. And then they're setting out in the bowling alley at the various little stand-up tables there. And it's the esprit de corps is not what it could be if we made this bar conducive to what the bowlers would like.
I understand your point of view. I'm going to say this project came about from the two and a half years ago, from the idea of finding a place that was considered a social gathering area. And this was the place that was designated.
Right, and I remember when it first opened, the Tuesday and Thursday leagues in particular were occupying the area, and we had some long tables there, and we would go in and we started selling beer in the corner, which was good, and we all sat along those tables. But that sort of has gotten broken up, and it's not the same.
So what would you say is a suggestion that would disseminate the difference between bowlers and the general public? Because it is the general public's, or I should say, it's the members' place to use. When I say general public, I meant it's the association members' place to use. And, some are bowlers, some aren't. So I'm gonna leave this discussion for you. I'm handling the planning. So if you have information to give back to me as a committee, then I will take that into consideration. And
I guess my only comment or concern there would be how far down the line we are with the architects. Are we to the point of no return and this thing's cast in stone? Or are you still welcoming other input as far as, personally, I think this looks good. I'll stand by my original statement. I've talked to a number of bowlers and a number of people that are, would be frequenters there. And they have some other ideas, and not worth discussing right this second, but if it's still open to a little bit of discussion, I think we'd like to sit down with you and share some of those ideas.
positively, Joe Hoyer's on the design team, so if you want to collect your information at our next meeting, and we haven't set a date yet because I wanted to get this information, I would say that yourself, Bob, and Joe come to that meeting, share that, just like we did with the dart players. We had Laurel Johnson come and represent. You come and bring your facts, and we'll have a great discussion, and then we'll go from there. And then I can report that back to the committee.
To throw a name out here, and Barry's quite familiar with him, my recommendation would be to also include Lou Pascalini in that discussion. He's a
Staff member?
he's an employee here, he's a bartender here, he's a bowler here, and he's got about 40 years of bar management experience. Excellent guy.
Very good. I'll have that discussion with Barry after the meeting.
Okay. The other thing I don't know if we can address it in a design meeting. One of the things that's really lacking in that lounge is food.
Yeah, I'm not.
Whatever you call that restaurant, Mimo's or whatever, closes at 2:30 or whenever they close. And every bowling alley I've ever been associated with had some kind of hot dogs, Tombstone pizzas, pretzels, you name it. There was something there that.
That's not the task that I'm
I
at hand.
understand.
No, I'm just making it clear that,
But if we're going to design something with that in mind, we need an area for that as well.
okay, that's what this committee's for.
Right.
So you have that discussion as a committee, please. Last year, there was a subcommittee from this committee that discussed how was this going to be handled, from a bar renovation project, a combination restaurant discussion, and it was narrowed down to just the work that I'm performing is for the bar discussion and renovation. And that's what the pricing that we're talking about in the budget has to do with. So I would say that if you have further discussion that you want to happen this year, it's time. You're the committee for that. So,
Great.
okay.
Is that it, Bob? Oh, okay. No worries. I don't want to,
The only other thing, and I'll say it, I know it'll be unpopular, but I feel very strongly that bar should include some kind of a liquor license. And whatever the obstacles are to that, I can tell you from experience that if you have a bar serving alcohol, liquor, not just beer and wine, that it becomes much more profitable. And that liquor license pays for itself in a fairly short order. And in talking with a number of the people that bowl, and probably other people that go there for other activities, everybody's not a beer drinker. Everybody's not a wine drinker. And I
Committee,
think we need to revisit that as well.
I'll bring back at the next meeting and the information that I know about licensing. I know that they're limited. I know they're super expensive. I mean, ridiculously expensive. So that's a possibility.
We'd need to do a cost-benefit analysis on
Sure.
that, and what's the payback going to be? It will pay for itself over time.
And please think about your comments earlier on in this question, Q&A time, the difference between bowlers and the public. If you had that liquor license, is that point that you brought up earlier even relevant? You get what I'm saying? How are you going to disseminate the difference between who walks in that bar, whether they got the little bowling lapel and shirt on versus general membership?
I don't want to discriminate against any group. I think they're all welcome. However, the adage back home was, when you had a bowling alley, it needed to be conducive to the bowlers. The bowlers bring in the majority of the revenue. And so you need to recognize that and make sure that the bowlers are happy there and not going somewhere else, or not just saying the heck with it, we won't have a beer after bowling tonight, because who wants to go sit at that table over in the corner and walk back and forth to get your drink a mile away? You know?
Good point. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else?
Sure.
Paul, okay.
I'm looking at the drawing. As I see it, it looks like there's 3 egress routes.
2.
The main door that we come in now, the side door, the fire corridor door, and then it looks like, and you're close, but that's a door.
That's there to represent the fire riser room. So if you see on this map, I've included that little room. And that's we have a fire riser there, so that was in to show representation between a room that I cannot do anything with other than leave it as the fire system.
Okay.
So, and that gives me the clarity on how close the bar can be to that door and room.
Okay, is there any consideration for employee access? Limited access for employees where they're bringing in beer, wine, sodas, that kind of stuff. It looks like they've got to come around and all the guests, or come through this back door.
Our assumption is that work is done before start of business, so that, leg work, if you will, the dollies of taking beer and storage, that's been considered in there. Greg, Barry, and I, and the design team talked about what does the 2 6 or 8 foot coolers hold, what are the kegs. So I think before start of business that we have made every consideration for any traffic of pre-bar event. We're all ready to go.
And third, the area where the darts area is, on high occupancy evenings, Friday specifically, is there a plan, or is it an issue to have mobile tables and chairs included there for that event?
No, that area would be fully facilitated for bar, dart play at all times. No, once this room is set up with the tables that we have, there are no more tables that are going to be imported in or out.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. The question for the committee, just to help the design team, is, do you want to leave darts at 3 boards? Or do you want it to increase to 4? And it does, that does show that I have to figure out how to move the projector screen, if that's what you're interested in doing.
Can I ask a question on that?
Hold on one second, Bob. Thank you. I have a question. So the question I have, and Carl, I don't know if you have the data or if Lauren has it, but currently the DART group, how many players do they have, and are they playing every day, and does it constitute?
Barry, I don't mean to put
a
you on the
fourth?
spot. Do you know that? Do you have that information?
Barry, do you have that data?
No, but we do shut the dartboards down on Friday nights.
Okay, we are shutting them down on Friday
Yes.
nights.
Yes,
Okay.
but we don't have a count of normalcy, so it varies though. Some days, they have a lot, some days there's nobody.
Mhm.
So it's not like a standard group of league bowlers coming in every week, and playing darts, so.
I know a good number of the dart players. There's generally anywhere from 12 to 20, depending on the time of year. But back to my question with that, Lauren recommended a 4th board so that the public could play.
Yep.
Is there a reason why that 4th board needs to be where the other 3 are? Could you have the public board up closer somewhere by where the band is at?
That's where he was interested based on the starting point of the 3 boards that we already have. overall, we're interested in maintaining some form of entertainment space and not putting a dartboard in the middle of a dance floor area. So, and then you can see there's really no other place for it.
Right. And then I'm going to ask this question, and Lauren, I'm not going to try and put you on the spot, but do you mind coming down to the mic for me, please? Thank you. I'm just curious if he has numbers that are about the same.
Laurel was here. This is
or-
great.
Yeah, and I was hoping he would come down. And so if you wouldn't mind, Lauren, your name and rec card number, please. Thank you.
Lauren Johnson, 123923.
So I'm just curious if the numbers that, Bob has given us is about roughly what you have.
Yes, right now it really is between like 12 and 20. It's Monday, Wednesday, Thursday. When I did a presentation to the design committee, I showed photographs of Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and showed a picture of the Dart area and showed the Mass of Humanity. And that was the reason for having a monitor on top, is because anyone else, even the people that wanted to watch what's going on, could not see through the Mass of Humanity. But with those on top, I went to a bull shooter tavern, and I went all the way to the other side of the tavern and took a picture at the dartboards, and that space of 50, 75 feet, you could still see the dart monitors up there from that far away. So that was the reason for the monitors. Anyway, I took a picture of the Mass of Humanity on Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, turned around and took a shot at the bar, and it had 10 people at the bar. There was basically darters, and there was the bar and nothing else, nobody else. So it was kind of the darters that was kind of supporting Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, right here during the summertime. During the wintertime, we're going to have more darters. We could have more bowlers if it's done right. There's plenty of room for the bowlers. I was, as you were talking, I was looking at those long there's 4 tables with 6 people that can sit on those. I was thinking of those for bowlers, but I'm not a bowler, so I didn't know. I think I'm through.
I think you've covered it.
Did I do it?
So, Lauren, I'm sorry. I have one question, so I apologize.
Yes, sorry, Lisa.
I don't play darts, so I'm curious. At any given time, how many people play on one board at a time?
We will have a minimum of 4 people on a board.
Okay.
Okay. So that's where you said 12 to 20. All of a sudden, you're noticing that some people are sitting out,
Right.
not able to play because of not having that 4th board. But the schematic has changed since we had this design thing. They did not have the quarter. That was not part of the original kind of deal. So the other thing of talking with Carl, there wasn't any, at that point in time, there wasn't any distance that was required away from that door. And so we had the dartboard closer to that entrance. And so that's why with dartboard number 4, we were not going to encryb against the projector. But now it seems like with that quarter, the board has to go out. Now, of course, that long rectangle that is there, the board itself is against the wall, and it's only sticking out, what, a foot something? I mean, it's...
I am familiar with the
Yeah,
boards.
Does a dartboard get in the way of
The actual door.
somebody's? Not really. You know, I mean, that illustration of our throw line and,
Right.
you know, the whole,
Right.
that looks pretty nasty, but the dartboard itself. Yeah.
I think
It's based on code, and
Right.
it's based on traffic in
And the
case of an
people
emergency.
that
I
are
mean, I didn't
there.
write that.
Well, yeah,
That's
but
the
Right.
Yeah, that's where we
three
kind of.
3 foot is what that first box represents. So I have to be 3 foot away.
Oh, it's 3 foot, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then everything. So to yours and Bob's, request on, can we put it somewhere else? Maybe on the opposite side of the screen, you know, and have just a kind of an odd layout, and the tables get shifted over to inside, in front of the screen. So basically, you could do 2 dartboards, a projector, 2 dartboards, or we could do 3 projector, 1 dartboard, and put the tables in between. You know, just things
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
Or Carl, I hate to ask this question, but to move the projector, major issue?
so
or-
you have 5 to 6 Wii TVs
Mhm,
on the wall
right,
representative. You had the dance floor. You don't want a projector coming down over the glass of the boulders area.
no,
You got 2 75 to 80-inch TVs behind the bar. You got 1 in each corner where the benches are represented. So the place is just loaded with
right,
spectacular viewing opportunities.
right.
You know, again, all these little nuances in here, that's where I say, you know,
In my
man, if I was a
opinion,
bowler, that's my
I'd be in
bar,
there,
you
and-
know?
But then again, I'm a sports nut, so it makes sense for me to want to be in there. But I'm with Carl in the sense that I kind of like the idea of maybe moving the darts, maybe splitting them up 2-2. I don't like a 3-1 concept. I like a 2-2 and figuring something out that. I don't know if Carl, that would work out. But Lauren, is that something that?
I with this drawing, I don't see 2-2. I can see 3-1, but I can't see 2-2.
Okay.
I can't see
Well,
2.
if that works
I
out.
can't without, you know, on the left side of the screen there looks like there's only a distance for.
Yeah, shrink the
For one.
benches. I mean, everything moves. Everything has to be compensated. But
Right.
I'm trying to include everybody, to make
Yep.
everybody a little bit happy
Fine.
here, you know?
It's your
Yeah.
job.
Two boards on each,
you've done
on each
wonderful.
side of the screen. Screen's important. That's
Yep.
the
It's very
that's the
important.
house's projector.
If it is a major thing to move the screen, yes,
Mhm.
having a fourth dartboard and having it on the left side of the screen would be good.
Okay,
That would be good. I mean,
Okay.
good for.
Remember, I got
good
windows on each side. That's why the screen is there,
Right.
you know, just
Think
about
those
all these
windows are
things.
there,
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
okay,
Okay.
all right, thank you, appreciate it, Lauren. So, do you need this information today from the committee, Carl, as far as the dartboard, or is
No.
this something
And to
I can
help,
put on the agenda?
help Bob's question about, you know, where are we at in this process?
Mhm.
We are moving forward with the ask for funds in the budget process.
Mhm.
And we have the whole season to continue to work on this within some reasonable timeframes. But I have not committed to paying or hiring the architect. The architect right now is helping me on a pro bono. And that's that's the great relationships that we have with our architectural team. So I've gotten this for free, but if we want to go to any steps of county proving anything out, that's where it triggers the AIA documents and fees, okay?
Okay, all
So
right,
if you want another month to discuss this, and then I can
okay.
keep on decor planning, I can, you know, adjust this a
Um,
little bit to show you one more time, but otherwise we're moving along.
Okay, I have to go with the committee. We'll do a little consensus here at the moment. I'm going to see, I would like to see you move forward on this. So I'm going to ask the committee if they want to give consensus for you to move forward on this. Continue with that.
I need a little more definition as to what move forward on this.
With the architect, that's it.
Oh,
He
okay.
can't go, Carl is, this is it as far as he can go with the architect, as far as a pro bono basis. If we go any further,
Yes.
there's a cost associated with it.
I
Otherwise,
just
they
needed-
will
I needed
continue
a
in
definition
a
of this.
design phase.
Okay.
I'm extending this opportunity as a courtesy. It's not really a,
Nope,
you know,
got it. So for the committee, we just need a
Well,
consensus.
what I heard was we could have one more perhaps meeting and talk a little bit about the layout. You know, another item that I didn't bring up, but I think maybe works, would be something like a jukebox in there for the nights when there isn't music. And that could be
somebody
a
mentioned-
revenue generator.
That is part-
You
that is-
probably have companies that'll put their jukebox in there and collect the money, you know?
Yep,
Free.
that is part of our discussion, is to include a jukebox form, modern. It's not free 99, I don't think, right, Terry? So, but a jukebox,
And the
yes.
other thing, you know, you've got a layout here, but how does it change the atmosphere of the room? You know, are we gonna have some controlled lighting to where we can dim them a little bit in the evening versus during the day, or when you wanna have a meeting? Just
That
add some
information is
atmosphere
coming.
to the room?
So this is a little early in the process of the design team, so we're working on those details now. We wanted to get the best known that this is the square footage and the size bar that I can work with and move forward architecturally and legally. Our next discussions as a design team is to start talking about the lighting. What are we hanging from the ceiling to kind of maybe put a shroud around the bar a little bit? You know, maybe it's nothing, but what's the back of the bar look like? Shelving, where does the glasses go? What's the foot space of the bar look like? You know, is it corrugated metal? Is it a brick veneer? You know, so that's where I'm at now with the team.
Okay, so if anybody remembers, on September 25th, I had emailed everybody about policy BO2, which you're probably wondering why I'm bringing that up. So if we go ahead and say, well, we're going to put this off one more month, then I need information from you to move forward to Carl, to share with Carl on what we're looking for. We can't lag it here and then dump it all on Carl at the meeting. We want to pass it forward to him, so when he comes to the meeting, he has the data for us. So if everybody is in consensus, we will move this discussion forward to the November meeting, but I do need your questions and what you would like to see from him to
A week or so?
a week or so is what he's asking. And Carl, do you want it to be funneled through me or through
Joe
Joe
Hoyer?
Hoyer? Okay, Joe is the committee chair, the working group chair, I think is what we're calling it. So you can send it to him, but we can't lag
Joe, do you
on it.
intend to call a meeting or have a get-together sometime?
And remember, we do have quorum issues, so Joe, I'm going to leave that on you, that we can't have too many.
Bob, this is what I think we should do, is that Joe and I will schedule the next design team meeting and invite you, and we'll try to do it within the next week and a half.
Great, nice.
Okay?
Great.
Karen, that'll be another agenda item for next month. Thank you. Mhm. Okay, so just, Gary, I'm going to start with you. Consensus to move this Lizard Acres discussion forward to November? Okay. Bob? Denise?
Yes.
Mhm. Terry? Consensus? Yep.
Yes.
Janet?
I will say yes, but I am concerned because I am hearing scope creep in terms of the overall project.
No.
So no?
No, I
No.
don't, he can't,
No,
he's
I-
just going to
there are
gather the
the
data.
components in here, unless there's just some drastic, crazy idea of change.
Okay.
The only creep is that structural wall, not structural, but fire-rated wall.
Right.
Which, you know, has to be part of the project. So
Right.
I believe that the team is working hard on finding the efficiencies on how to build the bar. We know the cost of equipment. We know the cost of benches, tables. So we're doing a really good job on costing. Where that's totaling up
that's-
exactly right now, I do not have those numbers for you. So,
Okay, that's fine then.
Okay.
Then
Great.
I'll go along with that.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Carl. Jim? Paul? Thank you. Karen? Sure. Mhm. Correct, and that, Correct, and that action will go through Joe Hoyer. Mhm. Do you want a separate consensus on the Joe Hoyer? Okay, that's fine. Okay, so going forward with getting your thoughts and ideas to Joe, and Carl would like that, basically 1 week. Do you want to say 1 week from today, 1 week from Friday? What do you want to do?
1 week from today.
A week from today, we'll stick with that. So, Gary, I'm going to start with you again. Okay? Yes. Terry?
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Thank you, appreciate it. We're good. Thank you, Karen, appreciate it. So, Carl, I think that takes care of that part of the Lizard Acres. We have one more step on the Lizard Acres as far as non-resident cover charge discussion. And Barry, I believe you're handling that, if I'm not mistaken, correct? Thank you, Carl, appreciate it.
Well, there is some discussion on Friday nights where they feel that we have too many non-resident people in the bar. We don't know because we don't check that. So somebody come up with the idea of charging a cover charge. That's all well and good, but we'd have to have staff, and everybody at the door to collect money or do what we're going to do. So that's what I guess the committee should discuss if they want to go in that direction. Other than a Friday night, it's not a problem. And I'm not sure Friday night of the percentage of resident versus non. We don't know because we're not checking. When we open, we just open. I don't think we ever thought that we'd get that crowded, but we're never over occupancy for sure because we do count. The problem was the lack of tables and chairs where people were standing and the air conditioning wasn't enough because we had to keep the doors closed so the noise doesn't go out in the bowlers area. And that's a big deal. But would it cut back or change things? I don't know. Technically, if we do that, they probably should be a guest of a resident. And if they're not a guest of a resident, then they can't come in at all. But I don't know the effect of that either, during the week when we need those people, or a bowler who is a non-resident. Are we going to stop him from going in there even though he bought a card to bowl in a league? That's another factor. So then we'd have to man the door 7 days a week. So I don't know if it's worth it, but that's not my call.
Barry,
Yes.
we've got, I was in there last Friday night, and we have somebody at the door checking for liquor
Yes.
coming in.
Yes.
right?
Right.
And we're also checking to see how many people are coming in on a Friday night.
Right.
Would it be possible for the person that's either checking the liquor or checking, to see how many people are coming in, to just take a look at ID cards and get some idea of how many people are coming in that don't have rec center ID cards?
Well, that would be the next
Just to get an
step.
idea.
That would be the next step.
And
But,
then-
hopefully we're not going to have somebody checking bags every week. Hopefully, the people get the word that you can't bring liquor into a bar.
You don't want to have hell in there every week. Just to get an idea of where we stand on a Friday night, something like that, before you make any decisions.
Right, I agree.
On what to do. At least we'd have an idea of, are there really that many people coming in from outside, to see their bands? So just a
No.
thought.
That was part of the plan.
So, yeah, this is something Barry and I have talked about in depth, and that was the big question. At this moment in time, we don't even know how many people are non-residents, and the bigger question is, we have non-residents that are bowling, and, they purchase the card, which allows them to bowl, and I don't think that gives us the opportunity to turn them away at Lizard Acres. I think also, too, this might require a policy change to say, okay, now this venue, you must be a resident, or as Barry said, a guest of a resident. So it's something that I think would require definite further investigation. Anybody else have any
I do.
thoughts? Okay.
Another thought, and Barry probably backed me up on this one. I don't know about the current situation because I haven't been in there on a Friday night, but I know the big issue last year, from the bowler's perspective again, was furniture migration. And the furniture was migrating from the bowling alley down into the lounge. And so the bowlers that wanted to bring in a snack or something to eat before bowling had nowhere to sit. And so, I mean, that can't happen either.
No, I think
We
we,
have
I
to
think
have a
we
hard and
fixed that,
fast
didn't we,
policy on
Barry?
that.
Well, we've corrected that.
Correct, yeah.
We got more furniture into the bar for one thing, which has helped. And Helen, who's checking bags, she's stopping that. As soon as they approach with a chair from the bowlers area, you know, she makes them put it back. So we've eliminated that pretty much.
Right.
But sometimes people are very, very rude. And
Right.
they're very persistent. And yeah.
That's right. I was just going to say, it's sad to say, but this is why we've had to institute our Be Kind campaign. And
Yeah, and the other thing, you know, what are we designing the bar for? You know, is it meant to be for everybody, residents of everybody, or are we designing it for the bowlers or, you know, darters? I think we have to be careful with that. I think originally it was just going to be a nice lounge for everybody to frequent. So I think we have to take that in consideration. You know, coming up with a concept
right,
in the bar.
right.
So,
So it sounds to me like this is not something we're going to be able to put to bed today, other than, no, we're not going to be able to come up with any sort of a cover charge. So I think that is something that will be a continual discussion, in my opinion. Anybody else? Any questions from the audience regarding this? Okay, I need you to come to the mic, please. I apologize, but we need everybody to be able to hear you, residents at home that are listening as well. State your name and rec card number, please, if you will, and sign in. Thank you.
Rec number 133202, and my name is Chris McLeod. And I just wanted to say, number one, on the construction of the lounge, if you can work on the air conditioning, because I didn't hear anything about that yet. Because that air conditioning is terrible, especially when you're here all summer, even though it's closed. And hopefully next year we won't have to close the lounge when you close the bowling alley, because there's not very many places to go during the summer here, and everything gets closed down when you live here. So that's number one. Number two, I know for a fact that when the Lips and Lashes, I think it is, come to play, everybody, so there's like 50 to 60 people that come to see them. I think there should be a cover charge when entertainment is present, maybe, just for that one day. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you, appreciate it. So one of the things Barry and I discussed as well was, and I appreciate that she brought up Lips and Lashes, I think, is, Carl, you touched on this earlier as well, the larger entertainment that we bring in. When we first started with having entertainment, it was just singles and duos, and that was working out great. And then we kind of went to having like maybe a 3-person band, but that was about the extent of it. Now we're kind of branched out into 4-piece, 5-piece. These bands tend to have a larger following, and they're posting it all over their social media sites. And unfortunately, we can't control their social media sites, and so their people are just showing up. And I know, I think Greg enlightened me when we spoke the other day that one of the Friday nights that people started arriving at 2 o'clock. Wow, this is, I mean, this is good news, bad news type situation for us. Carl?
We have other charter clubs that have the opportunity of, promoting that kind of entertainment. So that's the avenue that operationally that we're definitely going down the road. This bar is going to be more of a lounge. It's not going to be quite the entertainment venue. I mean, we definitely want to encourage entertainment, but operationally, we have the absolute opportunity to curtail that by just not hiring them. And that's going to be probably the operational change that is coming.
That is perfect. Thank you. Appreciate that. Hi.
Hi.
And the question to HVAC, that is definitely being considered in the architectural side of it when the engineers are here. The room currently is accurate for the size, but again, when we start tripping into the 180 and 90 people, that's where that heat index comes in and things start changing. So we get back to a lounge atmosphere, maybe we don't have the impact of HVAC. We will see.
More bodies, more heat.
That's right.
Thank you, Carl. Appreciate
I'll
that.
stay there. It's Chris Waller, 140598. I think it was your conceptual drawing area, kind of showed the dance floor in front of the TV monitors.
Yep.
I'm assuming.
Yep.
No, the TV monitors are in the blue
Right.
flaggy looking things, and then the band and a little bit more dancey areas in the front corner there, top corner.
Okay. And the floor space by the darts, is that usable floor space? Could we, since there's never darts and a band at the same time, could the dartboards move up to where the word band is?
Greg, can we go to the other slide, more architectural one? Thank you. So originally, darts were down where the band discussion was.
Right.
We are interested in getting the sound projected towards the pool direction instead of annoying bowlers, which is what we've heard from a lot of folks, that the entertainment blasting back at the glass. This helps us avoid necessarily having special conditions on the glass so that, again, it's not affecting bowling as much. And the sound system that comes along with this project would be designed to project more towards the other way. I mean, it's not going to get solved. It's still going to be an entertainment.
Well, I understand that, but my thought was if the 4 dartboards moved down to the bottom on the right-hand side, and the floor space used for throwing darts could be used as either dance or band space. It seems like a good double use of floor space.
Noted. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? And still, we have no online comments. Okay, go ahead, Bob.
Has anybody done a cost versus profit analysis of the entertainment we're putting in there on the Friday nights? If we're bringing in bigger groups, I assume we're paying them a little more. And how is that stacking up against the revenue of the night?
Barry?
We analyze the revenue on Friday every week. We take the cost of the bands, take the cost of the beverages, and back it all out and everything. So right now, we're always on the plus side. We're making a lot of money, but we're making money. Same with during the week. We usually do around $500 to $700 during the week. Lately on Friday nights, we're doing about $2,000. We have a fee for bands. It's either $300 or $400. That's it. We don't pay any more, any less. We've had bands come in and want more money, and it's just not worth it. Because the more we pay for them, the less we're going to make. And we don't need to spend that kind of money. So we are monitoring that every week.
Yeah, that was my point exactly, that it seems as though you're going to draw about the same number of people, maybe without getting a more expensive band. But if you've got a maximum you pay, then that solves the issue.
Right.
Super. Any more questions? Okay. With that, we're going to move into 402, which is the proposed capital budget with the October revisions. And Carl, you're up again.
This will be short and sweet.
Thank you.
Of the capital proposed items on this list that are relative to the Sports Pavilion Committee, we have one. So Lizard Acres Bar Room is continued to move forward at $225,000 proposed. And then as a just courtesy over the overall discussion of the October changes from September, the overall budget at today's date is a decrease of $71,832 with any overall changes, and I'm assuming that everybody's read this report.
Wonderful, thank you, Carl.
Any questions?
Any questions from the committee? No? Any questions from the audience regarding the capital budget? Thank you, Carl, appreciate it. With that, we'll move into 403, which I think everybody's so excited about, the bowling policies. So 403 is a new policy. It was written to separate out resident cardholder guests from non-residents. There seemed, in June, there seemed to be a lot of confusion. Everybody, they were lumped together in one policy, so we split it out from BO3, and we created BO2, which then BO3, 4, and 5 just shuffled down one number. So you all have had an opportunity to review, I'm hoping, BO2 and brought forward your questions or concern so that we can, every year, the committees must review their policies. So this year we have 5 policies, and we must review them and come to consensus and move them forward to the governing board for approval, whether or not we have changes. So I'm not going to read the policy word for word on this BO2 as it stands, just resident cardholder guest bowling. 1.0 is general. Did anybody have any questions or concerns regarding 1.0 as it stands?
Director?
Paul?
Through all of my research of the bylaws and other policies, there is no unified description of what a guest is. The only thing I could fall back on then is what Webster says a guest is. Webster says as a guest is a person that's visiting with you, that you have control over, or that you're responsible for. So I'm confused, as to what guests means, and I actually think that a guest should be described in our bylaws so it's consistent throughout the policies.
Kay is with us from properties, and I apologize, Kay, I'm going to call on you for this, but if I'm not mistaken, did we not cover this in FA08? The definition of a guest? Okay. 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 So FA08 was redlined over the summer as well, and a guest was defined in FA08.
Is that the current policy?
Mm-hmm. It
I
is the current policy.
I thought you just said that it is not approved yet. So
well, FA08 is absolutely an approved policy. It's
correct.
already in there.
I have
the only thing on
right
FA08
here
that was changed as it stands is, Kay, do you happen to have a copy with you? No.
No. Well, I have a copy of the current FA08, and I can't find anything that describes what a guest is. I'm just saying that.
What's the date of when you have?
January 5th, 2019.
That is not the policy that's going
I agree, but that policy has not been approved, has it? By the board. So this is the current policy. Well,
But
I'm just saying,
I can tell you it was moved forward at the workshop for the governing board meeting in the October workshop.
I was
last
there.
week, And it's going forward to the governing board meeting
Okay,
next
so-
week. So as revised, it was moved forward as revised, so there will be no changes to it.
Karen, are you able to bring that FA08 up on the
No.
screen?
No. No, because
Well,
it has no
it
bearing
obviously
here.
is if we're using that as a
It
foundation
has no
for
bearing
ours.
here. But
I'm just saying that, as I've seen it, it does not exemplify what a guest is.
okay, but you aren't looking at the current red line.
I have, but that's all I'm saying is that,
Okay.
in my opinion, guest is not described succinctly how we can apply it. That's all I'm saying.
In this policy, we've just said right here, resident cardholder guests are defined as individuals who are not rec center cardholders but are visiting as guests of the cardholder.
Okay, so
A
then,
guest is a guest.
then theoretically, a guest would have to be with a cardholder, is that correct? They would not be a guest if they weren't with a cardholder.
And this
Is
is
it-
true, if they are gonna come into the bowling alley and bowl, they have to come in with a cardholder. The cardholder has to show their card and say, these people are my guests, and they wanna bowl. Is that correct, Barry?
Okay. Okay, if that's what the rule is gonna be, that's fine with me.
Okay, we're going to take these one at a time, 1.0, 2.0, 3.0, and 4.0. And this is why on September 25th, when I emailed everybody and asked for you to please send me your suggestions, thoughts, where we were headed with this, I didn't get a response from anybody until last night.
And who gave you a
Paul
response?
Kleckner, but that was last night. That does us no good, because here we are in this pickle right now. But,
And just out of curiosity, since I never got the email message that you sent on the 25th, did anybody else get an email message for inputs for this meeting?
When she sent out all the
So we're
policies,
selective.
they were all right, they were all together in the email.
and Gary contacted me, and I sat down with Gary one-on-one, and we reviewed BO2, and he gave me his thoughts. So,
Bob and I didn't get it.
okay.
That's all I'm
So,
saying.
no worries, we'll move forward with this. So,
Okay.
So, Paul, tell me exactly what your issue is with 1.0.
That, how do you determine a guest, other than if they're with a cardholder? Are we saying, are we in agreement that to be a guest in the bowling alley, you have to be with a cardholder?
No, this 1.0 says, resident cardholder guests are defined as individuals who are not RCSCW cardholders, but are visiting as guests of cardholders,
Right.
period. That's all it says.
Okay, so they have to be visiting the cardholder. Okay,
Okay,
I'm good with that.
you're okay with that?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
The title says resident cardholder guest bowling. The title of BO2.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay, anybody else regarding 1.0? Okay, then we'll move into 2.0. So I'm going to go ahead and read this for clarification. Policy, the sports pavilion manager, under the direction of the general manager, shall grant approval for resident cardholder guest bowling based on availability of open lanes. Anybody have any issues with this, with 2.0? Okay. Moving on. 3.0, guest policies. 3.1, resident cardholder guests 18 years old and under must at all times be accompanied by an adult ages 18 plus. Any issues?
Yes.
Janet?
18 years and under, 18 plus. It's not logical to me, so you could have a person who is 18 years old, but you need someone who's 18 or you know, one day older than that. Because you're using 18 as the criteria, both for being accompanied and being the adult. I find that confusing.
Okay.
Should it be 18 and under and 19 and above?
Okay. I take it that was Mr. Schwinn back there? And are we good with the 19 and above?
That would be no.
Well, okay. And that would be no. Okay. So,
The reason not is that the bowling alley is a, I forgot the word, on-sale retailer of liquor in that facility. And based on Arizona state law, you have to be accompanied by someone 21 years or older to be in an establishment that sells liquor, beer, wine, other spirits, or they have to be accompanied by their spouse, guardian, parent of legal drinking age. So at a minimum, the requirement would be they would have to be with someone 21 years or older. Second, the other part I'm confused on is that we live in a 55 community, a restricted community. And I'm, as a senior that's 55 or older, I don't have a problem with, you know, you bringing your family in or your friends in, but I don't want to be their babysitters when you leave. So I just don't think that since the person that's bringing them into an activity is responsible, I don't know how we can really hold them responsible if they're not even there with them, that they can't control their actions or their activities. So I'm concerned with having an open policy of youthful people in our facilities, whether it's bowling alley or any place else.
okay. So Paul, if I understand you, you feel that they should be accompanied at all times by the resident?
Yes.
Okay. And that would be the 19 or the 18 and below, or
21 and above.
21 and above? Okay.
I mean, you couldn't have somebody 18. It would be, have to be 21 just to be an establishment without having somebody that's accompanying them. And that would be a card holder. What gets confusing is that you could have card holders that are 19 years old that can live in the community. So that's why you have to say 21. So it's not just card holders, because the card holder may not meet the requirements for Arizona state law on retail sales of alcohol.
Okay. Anybody else have any thoughts on this? Yeah, I think Bob? And then Gary? Okay. Turn your mic on, please.
It's not on.
Thank you.
I don't know of any residents here that are going to have their guests, be it their family or friends or whatever, come in here and tear the place up. I just can't imagine that. And I don't know that we've had that problem in the past. I do think it's important that we clarify it if there's some confusion, but I'm only concerned about the youngsters coming in here and turning this place into one of those other type establishments that are around the county.
Okay, so where you're at, Bob, is I think you're in BO3 for non-residents, so that would be the next policy. Right now, we have to stick to BO2. I just didn't want to interrupt you, I'm sorry. So Gary?
Because we had talked about 45 years and above last year for the last 2 meetings.
Again, BO3.
Okay.
So-
But how did 18 years old get back into these again? Where did 3.0 come from? Since last year, we had all agreed that even open bowling non-residents have to be accompanied by someone 45 years of age and older. Now I'm looking and I'm really confused as to how 18 plus ended up back for discussion.
Okay, let me try and clarify that
I would
as
appreciate
simply as I can. So in June, I think everybody will remember that one of the things we were trying to accomplish was the bowling policies and FAO8 have to come into line with each other. And at the time, FAO8 was being redlined as well. So they just have to be parallel with each other. And I believe in FAO8, the age is 18. If I'm not mistaken, I'm getting a nod from Kay, so we are good to go there. That is where, and that is regarding specifically resident cardholder guests. Again, we're not, BO3 will address non-residents. This is strictly resident cardholder guests. Now, the statement in FAO8, and again, I don't have that in front of me, but it does clarify twice in 2 different locations on FAO8, unless specified or referred to, please see bowling policies. So again, if the bowling policy states something different, the bowling policy will stand. So we just put this bowling policy in line with FAO8. Okay, regarding only resident cardholder guests, which is why we broke it out from BO3 to make it easier and create the new policy. Anybody else have any thoughts?
One other quick question then. This BO2 only applies to the bowling center. It does not apply to the billiard area and does not apply to Lizard Acres. Is that correct? Because that is actually Sports Pavilion.
Lizard Acres is different because it's classified a bar. So you got to be 21 to go in there. Now, the bowling center, that's a different classification. It's recreation. So they don't have to be 21 to bowl, even though we do sell beer and wine. It's like any other recreation center, all the new establishments, they all sell liquor, yet kids are under 21 are allowed to go in and participate. So that's where they draw the line.
And those children are all unsupervised?
Sure. Not at our place, but other places, sure, yeah.
Correct.
Well, they tear the place up.
They do.
Anybody else have any thoughts regarding 3.0? Joe?
Well, I guess, are we putting in the 19 then?
I got
As
it.
Janet
Yeah.
had first.
Well,
first word?
I want to hear any more thoughts before we make a red line suggestion to change this.
Because frankly, that was the same confusion that I
Right.
came in with. So my
Okay.
hypothetical, if I can,
Sure.
without getting too far into the weeds,
No.
would be So the card holder, resident card holder must accompany their guest and check them in, but they're not required to stay. So let's say it's a single 18-year-old. Are we saying in 3.0, as redlined, that 18-year-old now needs to have another 18-year-old plus with them or not?
As this stands right now, under 3.1, yes.
Okay.
But instead of 19 and above, the suggestion is 21 and above, and they can be checked in but not accompanied. Is that what I'm understanding you want it to read?
If you're asking me, I say that we are in a restricted community of 55 and older, and that if you are having a guest, you need to be with them. You just don't, it's like, taking your kids someplace and dropping them off. If you have guests, they are there to spend time with you and your family or whatever. And if they are not with you, then they become non-residents.
Okay, so here's where we're at. We have to redline the red line, and Janet, it was your suggestion. So we've got to come up, we have to do the red line, and then we have to do a consensus. So I just need to make sure I have the correction right, and then I'm going to go around the horn for a consensus. So when I read this out, please correct me, you and Joe, since you two seem to really have a handle on it. Resident cardholder guests, and Karen, if you will, would you jump in here too, please? 18 years old and under must be accompanied by an adult ages 21 and above.
I don't necessarily see that it has to be 21. Barry had a valid point that the bowling alley is recreational, not subjected to the same rules as Lizard Acres with their bar license. So I wanted to see a number to differentiate that it wasn't 18 and 18.
So we originally had 19. So we can stick 19 in there and see if that flies.
And when you read off it does say must at all times be accompanied.
But 19 and above is free and clear when they're checked in by the resident, are they not?
Correct.
Correct?
Correct.
Good? For the 18 and under. Correct. Correct.
We don't necessarily address resident cardholder guests who are 19
Karen, can
and
you read
older.
that for me again, please? Mm-hmm.
18 years old and under must at all times be accompanied by adults ages 19 plus, is my understanding of where you all are at this point.
Right. Now I think we're going to add a sentence. 19 and above may be checked in, but do not need to be accompanied. Because I just envision President Hurley asking me that question when I bring this policy forward.
So I'm now going to, I know there's a little bit of a problem here, I think, when I know the person that sees this, if it says at all times accompanied, now we're saying 19 plus may be checked in and do not need to be accompanied, which would negate the at all times.
Well, am I not mistaken that it's the 18 years old and under that must be accompanied?
Okay,
And I can just foresee that President Hurley is going to question me on why I didn't.
So that would become 3.2.
Correct. Mhm. No. Correct. Because Hurley is going to question me on that from another policy I did.
Do we need to,
Well, I'm going to go now ask for consensus, but what I'll do is I will ask, Karen will read 3.1 with the red line changes, and we'll do a consensus. Then she'll read 3.2, and we'll do consensus.
I'm just wondering if I'm overthinking it.
No, it's fine. Go ahead, Joe.
Guilty.
Go ahead.
Should we, in the 3.2 that we're adding, should it say checked in by the resident? 'Cause checked
We
in
can.
could be just
We
showing up and
absolutely
saying,
can.
put my name on a piece of paper.
Absolutely. Karen? Thank you.
They're going to be checked in with the resident. Can we tie that resident name to the person some way or another?
I'm sorry, what, Joe? Oh,
No,
No.
let's think about it a second. If you're going to have someone, I don't care what their age is, come here as a resident guest, and they're going to be accompanied or unaccompanied. Unaccompanied would make more sense. There ought to be, when you sign in at the desk to start bowling, a name associated with you on lanes 19 and 20 over there bowling. You're Pete Kleckner's guests, and his name, even though he's not there now, he's dropped you off, he's still responsible for you.
Could we have the resident leave the record?
Barry, do you want to take this?
We currently don't allow that.
No.
Unless it's a medical issue where the grandparent just can't show up and they have a medical card, well, then we'll accept that. But other than that, usually we make the card holder come to the lanes to sign everybody in.
Right, but when this is happening all over, I mean, it's acceptable all over our facility. They sign them in at the pool, and they're not required to stay. They sign them in at mini golf, and they're not required to stay. So, yeah, please, Janet, go ahead.
We're getting into a subtle difference between policy and procedure when we start to analyze the use cases and the things that we need to have in place. Policies need to be broader without referencing individual examples. Procedures tend to cover these types of cases and scenarios that we're looking at.
Director? The
Yes,
other thing is,
Paul.
the examples you used are all covered under FA08. We're specifically talking about bowling alley policy. So those are just different and not covered by this. It's a different policy from facilities, right, that covers that. And it says in the new revised one, it says
Correct.
Sports Pavilion and golf are exempt from all that other stuff.
Oh, so you did read FA08.
I know it pretty well.
So that's where I pointed out earlier that said that the bowling policies would supersede FA08. So what we put in here will supersede FA08.
Correct.
Extremely important.
Lisa,
Bob?
I asked Barry, a question on the side, and I'll share it with the committee. Question I had was, have we ever had a problem at the bowling alley at any time with this issue? And the answer is no, it's never been an issue. So it seems like the policy as proposed would work, since there's never been an issue. If there's been issues, then we maybe need to revisit and get a little more specific. But if there's no issue, we don't need to, in my opinion, spend any more time on it.
Thank you, Bob. I'd like to go ahead and have Karen read 3-1 again and look for consensus, and 3-2 again and look for consensus. So Karen, please read 3-1.
3.1, resident cardholder guests 18 years old and under must at all times be accompanied by an adult ages 19 plus.
Paul?
With my understandings of the Arizona liquor laws,
Paul,
nay.
I'm sorry, this is,
It's
it's
nay.
just yay or nay?
nay.
Okay, thank you. Jim?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Karen, 3-2?
I have 2 no's and everybody else is a yes, so.
Correct.
And that by the way, means that you have reached.
We have consensus to move it forward.
Meaning majority consensus.
Right, on that one, correct. Majority. So 3-2?
Resident cardholder guests ages
No,
nine.
no, yeah. Thank you, I'm
Okay.
sorry. Yeah, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Resident cardholder guests ages 19 plus may be checked in by the resident cardholder and do not need to be accompanied.
Perfect. Gary?
It probably shouldn't say may, you realize that now. It probably should say must be checked in.
Must be checked in.
So do you want me to read it again?
Please, please.
Resident cardholder guests ages 19 plus must be checked in by the resident cardholder and do not need to be accompanied.
Thank you, Karen. Gary? Okay. Bob?
Yes.
Terry?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
No.
Thank you. Same vote, Karen?
Yes.
Okay. So by consensus, this one will be moved forward as well. With that, we'll move into 4.0. Under fees, 5.1 for open bowling. Resident cardholder guests shall pay the bowling fees established by the governing board in addition to any paid fee, daily guest fees if applicable. Joe?
Shouldn't that be 4.1?
Yeah, I was just
Oh,
going
sorry,
to say,
yes.
sorry, Joe.
4.1.
It will be renumbered 4.1.
Yes. Sorry. All this time I read that, I never caught it. Thank you, Joe. Did you have any questions on the policy? No. Janet?
I have a question about if applicable. To me, it's a vague. So they pay the bowling fee established by the governing board in addition to any paid daily guest fee.
So your thought is you want it removed? Okay, any other thoughts on that? Okay, Bob?
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
If someone has a cardholder guest and they're using the bowling facility, are they paying the daily guest fee, or do they just come in and bowl and pay the lineage currently?
For bowling, they just pay the lineage. If they're billiards, then they have to pay the guest fee. Yes.
So the guest fee doesn't apply to the bowling?
No.
Right.
Okay, so that's where the if applicable is coming in.
Correct.
Then I withdraw my comment.
Thank you, Janet. Anybody else? Denise?
I'm thinking you still need to clarify that, because remember I had told you before that it's very confusing.
So,
That whether you say that it's bowling as opposed to.
for example,
Right,
billiards,
just to clarify it a little.
for example, billiards, or
Yeah,
What would you like,
if
Denise,
this
what would you like
policy
it to read?
is bowling,
I
yes.
It's just billiards that they would pay extra. So I think we need to mark that.
okay. So, do you want the sentence to read, for example, billiards, in regards to billiards, the guest fee, the daily guest fee is applicable?
You'll need to read that again, please.
Okay. What did I say?
Mhm.
For example, in regarding billiards, the daily guest fee is applicable.
I don't know that we usually put examples.
Or,
in
we're trying to,
policies.
we're coming through here. So regarding billiards,
Okay, regarding billiards.
Lisa,
mhm.
the whole BO2 policy is for guest bowling. It doesn't say anything about anything else in the center. I don't think we have to say that we need we need a fee for billiards. I mean, that's pretty standard operating procedure.
Barry, your thoughts?
I'd have to agree with Jim.
Okay, so steer clear
Yeah,
of
'cause this
billiards
policy just is
is
for
regarding,
bowling.
okay. Okay, so we're gonna, Terry,
If they pay for bowling,
Yes,
you don't need a guest card, guest
Correct.
fee, then what else would they be paying for? There's nothing else in the bowling alley to pay for.
correct.
So why do we even need, in addition to any paid daily guest fees, if applicable? We're only
Right.
talking about bowling.
Right.
So let's just scratch that out. And that's a lot less confusing.
so then we're back to, do we need the if applicable?
When others come from the
Makes
pool.
sense?
Hold on, you guys, I'm getting a question over here. Karen?
When people come over from the pool or other areas, they've paid a daily guest fee, they have to pay an additional amount to bowl. I thought that's what this was addressing. They have to pay a lineage fee. In other words, bowling isn't free and included in their daily pass. That's what this addresses, is my understanding.
I think you're understanding it correctly, but all we're saying is, or at least I think what we're saying is, that's already covered in the first 2/3 of that sentence. The stuff in parentheses is
Moot. Exactly.
Okay, so what Karen was explaining, I think we have to leave that in addition to any paid fee, daily guest fees, because say they've come over from the pool and they've already paid the daily guest fees, even though we don't charge them over at the bowling alley, they've already paid it.
Doesn't have anything to do with bowling.
I understand that.
No, I don't think you need it in there. I think you're just more confusing. My personal opinion. Yeah. Whether they come in, Karen, from any place else, these are bowling rules only. And once they walk into the bowling alley, they're under those rules. They don't need a guest card per se to bowl. So let's confuse it. Let's get it out of there. That's my personal opinion.
I agree.
Okay, so we're going to remove,
Move these.
in addition to any paid daily guest fees, if applicable. We're going to strike that whole sentence? Okay.
In addition,
No.
in parentheses.
What y'all have done, you ran my pen out of ink. So we're going to strike that sentence, and then I'm going to ask for consensus from you on 4.1. So we have renumbered 4.1. For open bowling, resident cardholder guests shall pay the bowling fees established by the governing board. period. Gary? Yes?
Yes.
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 Paul?
Yes.
Oh, my. Wow, unanimous. I appreciate that. Okay, so we're not done. So with the red line changes we have made to BO2 as they stand. Sharon, do I need to review them individually?
No,
No.
you've already reached consensus.
Absolutely. So I just need consensus from the committee to move BO2 forward to the governing board for their approval. Paul?
Nay.
Yes.
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 Thank you, committee. This passes and will be moved forward to the governing board for approval.
And I'm just double checking, there was one nay vote,
2 nays.
2 nay votes. Thank you.
I'm good. I apologize, my allergies are really bothering me. So for policies 1, 3, 4, and 5, 1 and 3 will be moved, we will be going over them, reviewing them in November. I would ask you, please, to review the changes that have been put forward. And everything is minor, it's just housekeeping. And then we'll review 1 and 3, and just remember 3 had a policy number change. We'll review those in November. I'm going to go ahead and do 4 and 5 here today. There are no changes at this time that I have, unless anybody has any questions with 4 and 5. They have both have only a policy number change, as they have been moved 1 space over. If there are any objections, I just need consensus from the committee. We'll do them together, 4 and 5, to move them forward with no changes on either one to the governing board. Gary? Okay.
Yes.
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 Nay.
Okay, thank you. We'll move those forward with 1 nay.
2, I thought there were 2 nays.
I apologize, 2 nays.
Can I ask for the minutes, why those, for the rationale behind the no votes?
Gary, Karen would like to know the rationale behind the no votes for the minutes.
What is that?
But that has nothing to do with 4 and 5. 3, that pertains to policy 3. And we're doing that in November. Okay,
Oh, okay.
thank you. Paul, are you in the same boat?
No. Mine is that in BO5, I believe there's some numbering issues on the references to the other policies.
Okay, so that's when I asked if there was any questions you could bring forward.
No, well, okay.
So, Karen, we're going to go back and address BO5. Paul, what are the questions? Paul, what are your questions?
I don't have any questions. I'm just commenting that, for example, in paragraph 3, it refers to policy BO2, senior non-resident bowling, and that policy no longer exists. The policies have been renumbered, and they're numbered correctly in this particular
Can somebody
that's
please
all.
check their mic? I think their mic is on. Okay. Thank you. So we will, I see that. I see that. We will defer BO5, excuse me, if you can do it now on the fly. Do you want to do it now on the fly, Terry? Okay.
Senior non-resident is now B0.
Actually, we've got,
Okay, what I'm going to do is we're going to move B05 to November as well, so we can go through this and correct those changes. In November, B04 doesn't appear to have any of those issues, so we will only do consensus for B04 at this point. And Karen, we will keep BO5 to November. So let's go over to move BO4 forward to the governing board as it stands with just the number change for the policy. No changes in the body of the policy. Gary. Denise. Oh, sorry, Bob. I didn't mean to skip you. Denise?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I
Now,
couldn't quite hear, was that 100%?
100% unanimous. Thank you. Man, I'm gonna die. So, please, 1, 3, and 5 will be reviewed in November, and we have got to do any red lines on those and move those forward for the December meeting. So please get all of your red lines in order. And with that, we're into committee comments. Anybody have committee comments? No, everybody wants to be quiet now? I have to.
Hearing no comments, any comments from the audience? And we have no online chat comments. So, hearing that, okay.
Thank you, Terry, I appreciate that. Well, I have one item that I wanted to bring forward, and Greg, if you will, put the slide up for open bowling. We've had many questions regarding open bowling and hours. There's just been a lot of confusion as to the hours of availability. So I asked Greg to bring this slide that shows, and I know the bowling alley has this available. I think you have a flyer at the front desk, and I think it's online as well. They try to make it as readily available, but I wanted everybody to see it online when they watch the meeting as well. And Barry, is there anything you wanted to
No, but
add?
we have them at the desk to pass out, so we pass
Right.
out hundreds of them.
Okay.
And we made it a little clearer this year where we didn't list the league activity, but we do have another flyer there. It shows the league activity. So you get all the information you want with those two pieces of paper.
Perfect. Thank you. I appreciate that. And
Thank Greg. He did that.
thank you, Greg. I appreciate that.
Could we
Yeah.
put a hyperlink to those on the website?
I'm sorry, Greg, what? Oh,
Thank you.
super. Thank you. Appreciate that. And still no online comments. And with that, our next meeting is November 8th, 1:30 here in the lecture hall. I appreciate everybody bearing with me as I was trying not to die here. And with that, I'm going to adjourn the meeting. Thank you.